Hello everyone, Creeponics here. Today, I'm going to do another creepypasta reading. This one is a Russian sleep experiment. Alright, let's start this off. Russian researchers in the late 1940s kept 5 people awake for 15 days using experimental gas-based stimulant. They were kept in a sealed environment to carefully monitor oxygen intake so the gas don't kill them, since it was toxic in high concentrations. This was before closed circuit cameras, so they only have microphones and 5-inch thick glass porthole sized windows into the chamber to monitor them. The chamber was stocked with books, cots to sleep on but no bedding, running water and toilets, and enough dry food to last all 5 for over a month. Test subjects were political prisoners deemed enemies of the state during World War II. Everything was fine for the first 5 days. Subjects hardly complained having been in prison, falsely, that they would be freed if they submitted to the test and did not sleep for 30 days. Their conservation activities were monitored, and it was noted that they continued to talk about increasingly traumatic incidents in their past, and the general tone of our conversation took a darker aspect after the 4-day mark. After 5 days, they started to complain about the circumstances and events that led them to where they were, and started to demonstrate severe paranoia. They stopped talking to each other and began alternately whispering into the microphones in one-way mirror portals. Oddly, they all seemed to think they could win the trust of experimenters by turning over their comrades, the other subjects in captivity, with them. At first, the researchers suspected this would affect the gas itself. After 9 days, the first of them started screaming. He ran the length of the chamber, repeating and yelling at the top of his lungs for 3 hours straight. He continued attempting to scream, but was only able to produce occasional squeaks. The researchers postulated that he only physically torn his vocal cords. The most surprising thing about this behavior is how the other captives reacted to it, or rather, didn't react to it. They continued whispering into the microphone until the second the captives started screaming. The 2 non-scream captives took the books apart, smeared page after page with their own feces, and pasted them calmly over glass portholes. The screaming promptly stopped after that. So did the whispering into their microphones. After 3 more days passed, the researchers checked the microphones early to make sure they were working, since they thought it was impossible that no sound could be incoming with 5 people inside. The oxygen consumption chamber indicated that all 5 must still be alive. In fact, it was the amount of oxygen people would consume at the very level of strenuous exercise. On the morning of the 14th day, the researchers did something they said they would not do to get a reaction from captives. They used the intercom inside the chamber, hoping to provoke any response from the captives. They were afraid either dead or vegetables. They had announced, "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor, or you will be shot. Compliance will earn you your immediate freedom." To the surprise, I heard a single phrase in a calm voice response, "We no longer want to be freed." Debate broke out among researchers and military forces funding the research. Unable to provoke any more response using intercom, it was finally decided to open the chamber on midnight on the 15th day. The chamber was flushed of the stimulant gas and filled with fresh air. Immediately, voices from the microphone began to object. 3 different voices began begging, as if pleading for the life of the loved ones, turn the gas back on. The chamber was open. Soldiers sent to retrieve the test subjects. They began to scream louder than ever, and so did the soldiers when they saw one inside. 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive, although no one could rightly call the state of them in life. The food rations past 5 days has not been so much touched, as were chunks of meat from the dead test subjects, thighs, and chest stuffed to the drain, in a center chamber, blocking the drain, allowing 4 inches of water to accumulate on the floor. Precisely how much water on the floor was actually blood was never determined. All 4 surviving test subjects also had large portions of muscle and skin torn away from their bodies. Destruction of flesh and exposed bone on their fingertips indicated that the wounds were inflicted by hand, not with teeth, as researchers initially thought. Closer examination of the position of the angles of the wounds indicated most, if not all of them, were self-inflicted. The abnormal organs below the ribcage of all 4 test subjects somehow had been removed, while the heart, lungs, and diaphragm remained in place. The skin and most of the muscles attached to the ribs had been ripped off, exposing the lungs for the ribcage. All the blood vessels and organs remained intact. They had just been taken out, laid on the floor, fanning out around the evacuated but still living bodies of the subjects. The died. Excuse me. I need to take a break here. Back at it. The digestive tract of all 4 could be seen to be working, digesting food. It quickly became apparent that digesting was their own flesh they had ripped and eaten over the course of days. Most soldiers were Russian special operatives at the facility, but still Manny refused to return to the chamber to remove the test subjects. They continued to scream to be left in the chamber, and alternately beg and demand gas be turned on, lest they fall asleep. To everyone's surprise, the test subjects put up a fierce fight in the process of being removed from the chamber. One Russian soldier died from having his throat ripped out. Another was gravely injured by having his testicles ripped off, an artery in his leg severed by one of the subject's teeth. Another 5 lost their lives if you count the ones that committed suicide in the weeks following the incident. The struggle, one of the 4 living subjects had his spleen ruptured and bled out almost immediately. Medical researchers attempted to sedate him, but this proved impossible. He was injected with more than 10 times the human dose of morphine derivative and still fought like a cornered animal, breaking the ribs and arm of one doctor when the heart seemed to beat for a full 2 minutes after he had bled out to the point there was more air in his vascular system than blood. Even after a stop, he continued to scream and flail for another 3 minutes, struggling to attack anyone in reach, and just repeatedly the word more over and over again. The weaker and weaker till he finally fell silent. Sorry if I'm screwed up on words here. Never been good reading aloud. The surviving 3 test subjects were heavily restrained and moved to a medical facility. The 2, with intact vocal cords, continuously begging for the gas, demanding to be kept awake. The most injured of the 3 was taken to only a surgical operating room the facility had. The process of preparing the subject to have his organs placed back with his body was found that he was effectively immune to the sedative they gave him to prepare him for surgery. He fought furiously against his restraints when the anesthetic gas was brought to put him out under. He managed to tear most of the way through the 4-inch wide leather strap on one wrist, even the weight of the 200-pound soldier holding that wrist as well.